So welcome to National 4 Chemistry. This is still working on Unit 1 and this is our fourth video and this is on calculating formula mass. Now the formula mass of a chemical is how much one unit of a chemical weighs. And to calculate it, you need the chemical formula and you need the data booklet, specifically page 7. And on page 7 you'll be looking up the column called relative atomic mass. And you'll be given a chemical formula and be told to work out the formula mass. There's a few steps you need to follow, which sound more complicated than it actually is to do. So the first thing you need to know is what elements are in the formula. So from the name, work out what elements are in there. Then, from the numbers written after the symbols for each element, you can work out how many atoms of each element there are. You then go to your data booklet, page 7, and you look up the relative atomic mass of the elements. And then for each element, you're going to multiply that mass by the number of atoms of that type there are. And finally, you add the numbers up together. Now, it's much easier seeing it done in practice than it is to have it explained in words. So what I've got are a few worked examples and then some practice questions for you to try. So our first one is sodium chloride. Now from the formula, every capital letter is the start of a new element. So every capital letter is the start of a new element. So in this one, we've got two elements. We've got Na and we've got Cl. Now from the formula, there's no numbers written after either of those symbols. So that just means that there's one of each of them. Now we go to our data booklet next and we go look up the relative mass of sodium, of Na, and the relative mass of Cl. Right. Sodium is 23, chlorine is 35.5. We multiply. Now multiplying any number by 1 just gives you the same number. So we end up with 23 and 35.5. And so when we add them together, this is our final step, we get a formula mass of 58.5. A more complicated example, Al2O3. Well, look at our capital letters. We have a capital A for aluminium. We have a capital O for oxygen. And that means we only have two elements, Al and O. Now there are two aluminiums because there's a 2 written after Al. There's 3 oxygens because there is a 3 written after O. Now we look up the relative atomic mass in the data booklet. For aluminium, that's 27. For oxygen, that's 16. Now, to do our multiplication, which is our next step, you're always allowed to use a calculator. So if you don't have access to one, ask in class, because in chemistry, you should always be allowed to use a calculator. So 2 times 27 gives us 54. 3 times 16 gives us 48. And then our final step is to add those two numbers together, which gets us 102. Right, another example, I think this is our last example, is calcium carbonate, or CaCO3. Now remember, each capital letter is the start of a new element. So we have a capital C in Ca, then we have a capital C, and then we have a capital O. So there's 3 elements, remember. A capital letter is a new element. So always look carefully at where we have capital letters. So Ca, C, and O. Ca, no number after it, which means there's one of it. C, no number after it, which means there's one of it. And a 3 after O, telling us we have 3 oxygens. Looking up the data booklet, Ca has a mass of 40, C has a mass of 12, and oxygen O has a mass of 16. When we multiply, we get 40, we get 12, and then for 3 times 16, we get 48. When we add those numbers up together, that gives us 100. So if you follow those 5 steps, work out the elements, work out how many there are of each one, look up the mass, multiply, and then add everything up together, you will be able to work out the formula mass, sometimes called the relative formula mass, for every compound you get given. So here are 6 practice questions. I would like you to have a go at these. So pause the video, make yourself have access to a data booklet, either look it up online or use one that you should have at home with you, and have a go at these 6 examples. So pause the video and have a go. Hopefully, you've had a go at working out each of these, and I've got the answers available for you now. So Br2 should be 160, CaO should be 56, H2O should be 18, CO2 should be 44, P2O5 should be 142, and that final one, NH4NO3, should be 80. Now, hopefully you've been able to get the majority, if not all of those correct, and that has been a quick go through of how to work out formula mass if you know the chemical formula for a compound.